Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. And we'll go into our non-stat public hearing. First off, hopefully everybody had a good Thanksgiving break, good long weekend, some good weather, some turkey, maybe a ham or two. I had one of each. I'm stalling. No, we'll call the meeting to order and we'll get right into the public hearing, which is the Fireside Stage 2 Neighborhood Plan Amendment. Good evening, Mr. Nordquist.
Good evening. Just give me a moment.
I guess before you start, just point out that Councillor Flowers is away tonight. She's on holiday, so we're not waiting for her.
All right. Good evening. So tonight I'm here to present the Fireside Stage 2 Neighborhood Plan Amendment for its non-statutory public hearing. Some background on this application. So the Fireside Stage 2 Neighborhood Plan identifies an area for live-work units near the center of the neighborhood. However, these additional live-work units may no longer be viable in the neighborhood. So the applicant is proposing to amend the neighborhood plan to support a land use bylaw to redesignate this land as residential. So just some community context. Fireside is one of our southmost communities, right off Highway 22. And we are specifically looking at Fireside Stage 2, which is the second half of the neighborhood and is currently under development. This is the neighborhood plan concept showing the area in red highlighted here as the proposed commercial mixed, or as a current commercial mixed use area. So this is where the live-work units would be located. So as part of their proposed amendments, they are looking at changing the land use identified in the neighborhood plan. So this proposal would redesignate the residential commercial mixed use district to residential single and two dwelling district. The current neighborhood plan describes this land as street-orientated townhomes with opportunity for live-work units. Live-work units allow for our business development, but it is limited to certain uses. So art studios, medical clinics, offices, and personal service shops are all identified under the land use bylaw, as well as any ancillary retail sales for these uses. The proposal would see this change to a combination of single detached, semi-detached, and street-oriented townhomes, as well as a local amenity parcel for a proposed daycare. The existing commercial policies in the neighborhood plan would be removed, and the neighborhood node policies would be updated to identify this residential mix, as well as additional local amenities. There would be a minor shift in the statistics in the neighborhood, as the number of dwelling units will decrease. Again, this map just highlights the area that would be redesignated, and it shows a bit more of the context of the surrounding area. So the R2 is already common and would match the surrounding land uses. So with the land use change, approximately 14 dwelling units would be lost. However, this does also compensate for the local amenity space that's being proposed to add. The overall density would see a slight shift downward, going from basically 9.7 units per acre to 9.6 units per acre. There are some additional proposed amendments to support this change of use, such as some changes to the open space. So this would add community gardens to the park north of this neighborhood node to add to the local amenities, as well as it does propose to remove community fire pits from the central park. There are also some administrative changes to update the National Fire Protection Association name. So looking at the open space amendments, there is the addition of public gardens to the north of this neighborhood node that would be redesignated, as well as the removal of the fire pit. Basically, what this looks like is it would add public garden with planters for use by the community, and this just shows how it would be integrated with the already proposed play structure and open play area in the neighborhood plan, as well as the removal of fire pit. It would only be the fire pit structure that would be removed, but the gathering space would still be present with benches and picnic tables. So there isn't a loss of the activity space. Public consultation. So this non-statutory public hearing was advertised in the Cochrane Eagle on October 3rd and October 10th. It was circulated internally and externally to our departments for comments and concerns. Two specific ones that we pulled out is fire safety is amicable to the removal of the fire pits due to some issues that they have experienced in the past, such as failure to extinguish a fire and improper care by users have been common in other locations. Economic development also supported the change from commercial residential mixed use to the residential 1 and 2 dwelling, as it would actually have a minor impact in the commercial services provided in the area, and other live-work units in town have not been successful. We did not receive any letters from adjacent landowners regarding the proposed amendments to the neighborhood plan. The neighborhood plan amendments were also presented to the Cochrane Planning Commission. They were supported the shift to a more viable form of the development. However, there are still some concerns of the removal of these local services and how it may force residents to travel further. There were also some concerns with the replacement of the fire pit for community gardens, as they felt the fire pit would be a better gathering space year-round. However, they did see the drawbacks with the fire pit and then deferred to fire services. However, some of the CPC members were disappointed with this request for revision. It has come forward from the developer prior to full build-out. They felt the stance that there is no need for live-work units by the developer may be a bit presumptuous, and they felt that they have long been supportive of a mix of product being offered to residents, and until this product is offered, removing the option at this time is not warranted. They provided one solution might be to change the zoning on one side of the block to allow the daycare while leaving the remainder of the zoning for live-work units. So administration is recommending option 1, that council receives and considers all comments presented during the non-statutory public hearing for the Fireside Stage 2 neighborhood plan amendment. Thank you, and I'm available for any questions.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Council, any questions of administration at this point? Councillor McFadden?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I did have a couple of questions. One of the comments was that the live-work units is not viable in other parts of the community. Could you expand on that?
Sure. So these live-work units have been proposed in 2 neighborhoods already, Fireside and in Sunset. Particularly, some of these units have been built in Sunset, have not actually been filled by businesses yet. So they're only being used as residences and aren't meeting that full potential of a live-work unit.
Okay, so we're just talking about the experience to date in Sunset at this point?
Yes.
Okay. And then with the community garden, and I was supportive of that, what's the plan for how the community garden would be managed?
It would, with our other community gardens in town, they are managed through the community association in association with our parks department.
Okay. Okay, those are my questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I just had one, and it was in regards to density. You said there'll be a slight decrease because there'd be less dwelling units in the proposal?
Correct.
So like 14?
14 less units
Yeah.
are proposed.
Okay, thank you. Okay, no other questions. We'll move on to the applicant, I guess. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Pam McInnes from B&A Planning Group. I'm just going to look for my presentation here. There we go. So I'm here to speak in favor of the proposed neighborhood plan amendment. And with me here tonight are Bill McDonald and Dan. I'm going to really butcher his last name.
I can't read it here either.
From Levita Land. So minor refinements in neighborhood plans occur as development proceeds, and that's why it's beneficial that they're adopted as non-statutory, so that some refinements can occur at the administrative level. However, a land use amendment triggered the need for a neighborhood plan amendment, and because that's considered a major change and it requires a council approval. So the main rationale for the neighborhood plan amendment is the land use amendment. So I'm going to speak to both of them right now. But I'll come back up again during the second public hearing just in case there's some questions that council has for that one. The neighborhood plan land use amendments are requested to accommodate marketable lots and a daycare located within a pre-identified neighborhood node. The node falls within the newest phase of development in Fireside, which is Fireside Phase 10. Fireside was designed to include key elements of a complete community, and that is how it is being built out today. A complete community with a variety of housing options, including single-family, semi-detached, fee-simple condo-style townhomes, villas, seniors housing, and bare land condo-style townhomes. Commercial development is underway, and local services are being offered. The community school is built. The amendments being discussed tonight will still uphold the overall vision for this area. As administration showed us, the site triggering the amendments is in Fireside Stage 2. It's been several years since Fireside Stage 2 neighborhood plan was approved, and since that time there have been many commercial and retail services provided or approved in South Cochrane and within Fireside in particular. Much of Stage 1 is built and occupied. This includes a significant portion of the Embers commercial site, which is a mixed-use 9.2 acre development. Currently within that commercial site is a preschool called Smart Little People, and it's outgrowing that existing location. The owners want to expand operations into a full-service daycare and within the new phase of Fireside Phase 10, and they're eagerly awaiting the opportunity to move forward as soon as possible. Levita would like to see that service remain within the community, and feels that a daycare would add great value to the residents. Commercial policies within the town's MDP do require that commercial uses try not to compete with the downtown area. However, neighborhood scale or local daily services should be offered within a community. Fireside includes the commercial site that offers over 4,300 square feet of commercial retail services. In general, a commercial demand analysis typically states that about 20 square feet of commercial area is required to serve all the commercial needs of residents or per capita. Fireside alone is close to providing half of that amount for its residents, which, given the town's desire to keep the downtown core strong and vibrant, that could be viewed as the maximum that should be provided in a local community. The location for the daycare within the plan that seemed most logical is the site that's subject to the land use amendment and the reason for the neighborhood plan amendment. The reason this area is logical is that it is adjacent to a collector road, adjacent to a wider residential entrance street that also has a median. It has backlane access. It's within a pre-identified neighborhood node within the neighborhood plan. It is within 2 blocks of parks, and it's within a block of the school site. And it's also within the next phase that's coming, which is Phase 10. Currently, Fireside Stage 2 neighborhood plan indicates the 2 blocks designated as CR will likely develop as initially a street-oriented townhomes, but we wanted land use to allow the opportunity for those units to be modified over time into live-work dwellings. With this in mind, we took a detailed look at the CR commercial residential mixed-use district. And the 2 blocks in question have fixed lengths and depths based on the current build-out of Fireside and the road configurations. And as it stands today, the 2 blocks actually don't meet the CR minimum lot area. which is a minimum lot area of 0.4 hectares. Each block is only 0.26. We also noted that childcare services are discretionary within the district, along with main floor residential. The district has a minimum lot width requirement of 50 meters. So this is not conducive to the daycare site requirements, and it leaves residual land within the block that's not ideal for residential lotting. Furthermore, the blocks would be subject to a bare land condo scenario, given that minimum lot width. This means that with the CR land use, the units in either block could not be developed as fee simple towns with the ability to transition over time into live work. And that was the original plan contemplated in the neighborhood plan. Townhomes with condo fees rather than being fee simple units poses an affordability concern because the product competes with existing fee simple products in Fireside and elsewhere. Townhomes in general are not being absorbed quickly in the current market. Fireside is already offering townhomes in a variety of formats in various locations, including 200 units in their Vantage site, which is a bare land condo, and it still has 120 units remaining. There is a full block of fee simple townhomes immediately adjacent to this site in Phase 9, and in fact, Levita just had a builder exit Fireside and walk away from their commitment to build townhomes in Phase 9 because they're not selling. It's important to emphasize that Levita Land has long been supportive of a mixed-use product being offered in its communities. It is not a developer to shy away from live-work units in Cochrane if they make sense and if they're ultimately supported by the market. Calbridge Homes is the sister company to Levita Land, with both companies falling under the same ownership. Calbridge Homes with Levita Properties is the builder of the live work units at the Trading Post in Sunset Ridge, and Levita Properties is currently building live work in the Embers, that's where they are located there, fronting onto Fireside Boulevard. The live work units in Sunset Ridge have struggled to sell since they were built, resulting in several years of very slow absorption. And the live work units underway within the Embers have seen recent difficulties attracting interested tenants and buyers. Levita Land is offering live work units, has them on the market, and they're not moving. But what about the future? And we recognize that that is the question, and we understand that. So we look to the intent of the neighborhood plan and its greater vision for the community. The neighborhood plan envisioned this area as a form of node, a place that may draw residents to local service within walking distance and adjacent to open space amenities. We feel that providing a site to keep the local daycare service within the community and to allow it to grow and meet the existing needs of the community would provide the community a service. That use will employ upwards of 15 to 20 people in the short term to provide childcare to roughly 80 children in the community. That would be local jobs and a non-residential tax base that will benefit the town right away. Whereas live work units developed as potentially 20 townhomes may not ever transition into the end use and may not provide the employment opportunities for that many residents. This is the first phase that Levita has brought on this year. We know that the town has growth targets, and this year those targets will likely not be met. Levita is positioned to help with those targets and has builder partners committed to this phase of development in Fireside. Levita understands their market, and they adapt it for when the market changes. Phase 10 will bring 94 residential units, and of those, 72 lots have been pre-sold to builders. This includes a mix of semi-detached laned and single detached front drive lot products aimed towards more affordable housing options within the community. It aligns with the current market demands, which is supported by a recent market survey conducted by Levita. The current demand in Fireside is for single-family homes or the next best thing based on affordability, which is a semi-detached. Levita's builder partners and other potential buyers whom they have spoken to are not currently interested in building live-work units. Additionally, the streetscape will still include attractive attached units fronting a residential entrance street with a landscape median. Therefore, we feel the streetscape will be minimally impacted by the change. One of the comments from CPC did touch on the suggestion of a land use amendment for one block only. However, with the reasons we've mentioned, it does not make sense to leave one block across the street from the proposed daycare as live work either. Levita does not have a committed townhome builder, and the one they did have has walked away from the community. Maintaining market momentum and adapting to market demand while still carrying out the community vision is extremely important when selling the community. Additionally, blocks that are not marketable sitting empty for years become an eyesore for the community and problematic for the town. Levita's preference is to proceed with a land use amendment from CR to R2, which will allow them to develop the blocks as semi-detached fee simple units, of which they already have builder commitments for, and then submit the development permit application for the daycare site. In addition to what is being provided in Fireside, land use is in place and approvals are underway for additional commercial uses across the highway adjacent to the Willows, and a village center is planned for in close proximity to the Fireside intersection in South Bow. So commercial needs are being met. The other two amendments brought forth would not typically require a neighborhood plan amendment. However, as we're doing one for the land use, it seems prudent to align the document with the park's programming. The most significant shift is the removal of the fire pit from the Central Park. Originally, it was envisioned as part of the overall theme of the community. However, a detailed review of its feasibility has made it difficult to implement. There are liability and insurance concerns, maintenance and safety concerns, also from the fire department. Conversations with the fire department have informed us they are not in favor of the fire pit and feel the location within the community is not ideal. To maintain a sense of social gathering opportunity, Levita is proposing the community garden be placed into the park south of the wetland. This is deemed a better location due to the active nature of programming in the Central Park. Landscaping plans have already been prepared as Levita is fully committed to the community garden. Community gardens do promote local food growth and can be worked into education programs and create an opportunity for socialization. The fire pit, as mentioned, has the risk of becoming a maintenance concern, a safety issue, and a noise concern for adjacent residents. Levita wishes to Levita wants to ensure that Fireside is developed as the community they envision, and they feel the trade-off of the fire pit for a community garden is the most ideal for the residents. So in conclusion, we feel that the proposed neighborhood plan amendment and land use applications do not remove a service from the community. They simply provide a different form that is still meeting the existing needs of the residents. An existing service, the preschool, will be relocated to a larger, more viable location. A location that's already been identified as a node in the neighborhood plan. This in turn will provide an opportunity for an alternate service to take the created vacancy within the Embers commercial site. Additionally, the slight downzoning of the residential units will help Levita land respond to the market and assist Cochrane in reaching residential growth targets. It will help ensure 2 blocks don't remain undeveloped within phase 10, with residents moving in around them and then developed later once the neighbors are settled. We hope that Council can agree with our proposal and will support the neighborhood plan and the land use amendment. And we're happy to answer questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you. Lots of information there. Council, any questions? Councilor Federico?
One question for you. When it comes to the removal of the fire pit, was there any kind of sort of community engagement or, putting that back out to the community, whether or not they were in favor of removing the fire pit? Because I understand from your standpoint as a builder, you say, well, it's a trade-off from one amenity to the other, but I've seen that in where I personally live, and when people expect to have a certain amenity provided and then it's just removed, and although something else is coming in, if there's no communication, then it upsets the neighborhood. So I'm just wondering what kind of feedback you have received.
Through the mayor to Councillor Federico, no. At this point, we did not do any engagement on the removal of the fire pit. We didn't go out to the community. I think we viewed it as a bit of a parks programming situation, and once we understood, or once Levita understood the implications and the insurance obligations and liabilities that would fall back onto the community association or the town, it was just they deemed it to be very difficult.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor McFadden?
Thank you. So one of the appeals of the live work units initially so obviously I was part of the council that approved that, it was that to provide that diversity of use. And even in the neighborhood plan, it was identified that that was expected, that build-out probably wouldn't happen until later in the complete community build-out, so that was expected. So my question to you then is, and I can understand the appeal in allowing the daycare to have a place to go, and I think that's great that the goal is to keep it in the community. But how could Levita balance off the need for a diversity of housing in the community as opposed to just reverting to a common type?
Sure, through the chair to Councillor McFadden. I think the problem that they're facing is that they have townhomes offered right now to the market, and they're not being absorbed. So to move into a new phase, which is the first phase that they're even bringing on this year, with 2 more blocks of townhomes, is just, it's not very feasible for their building program. And so there are opportunities to continue offering townhomes because R2 does allow townhome development when there's a lane. It does have to be done through a development permit process, but there is the ability to meet that market need should it be identified in the future. So it's not necessarily removing a product, it's just saying this isn't the right place for it.
But would there need to be a land use change to make sure that the as I understand it, the live use is a particular form, so would that have to be amended to allow that in later?
Sorry, yes,
build-outs?
through the chair, yes, you're correct. If it was to be live work, that would have to be a land use amendment. I think that there was recognized the opportunity that these could align with the neighborhood plan and be developed as townhomes right now. But that market isn't there either. So neither the live work market, because they're offering them and they're not being absorbed, that market's not there. And the townhome itself, that market is not there. And so looking at a phase that they want to bring on now, they want to be able to put in something that's marketable. And so that recognizing they're moving away from live work, but they wanted to downzone even from a townhome to provide something that could be absorbed.
Right now, and what's being absorbed by the market right now is the R1s?
And semi-detached.
And the semi-detached, okay. All right, thank you for the clarification.
Sure.
Any other questions? No? Okay, just before you leave, you were representing both Bill McDonald and Dan, okay?
Dan P.
Yeah, Dan P, thank you. Good one. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So just to be clear, did Mr. McDonald or Dan want to come forward? Yeah, okay. So Bill's next on the speaking list.
Well, I'm just here to, if there's any further questions. I don't have anything to add to Pam's presentation, but certainly we're in support of the neighborhood plan and the land use amendment. And so if there are any other specific questions that council has, I'm happy to answer.
And you're representing Levita, so,
Representing Levita Land, correct.
okay. Any questions of the developer? No? Okay, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
And I presume Dan has the same, okay? Working through the list, that was all of them. Is there anyone in the gallery who wishes to speak in favor or opposed to the development change? No? Was there any closing remarks from anyone? Or questions back to administration about anything? Okay, then we will close that public hearing. Thank you. And we need about 2 minutes, correct? To change feeds to the late show here.